YouTube later. So, thank you guys so much for turning up. This is a rank, well, not a rank, this is a high-level competitive tier list. You could take that as high-level ranked, i.e. Diamond Plus, or you could take this as full-on 5-man squad versus 5-man squad. We're going to go through each and every single one of the gods, have a small discussion about each and every single god, place them on the tier list, and have some questions from chat afterwards. So, without further ado, let's get started. Go through each and every single one of them in order. So, we're also going to start with Agni. Now, Agni, I think right now is in a really good spot. With the changes to Warlock's staff, it's a more attractive item for him, and he does very well with it. Most of the mages on this list do very well with Warlock's staff, to be fair. But I think Agni is one of the better ones to get it. Without the need for Roller Tahuti, he can very easily go into a defensive item thanks to his passive, give him extra power on his next ability when he has that stacked up. What's more, he's very lane dominant. You're no longer starting 2 in mid, there's pretty much always going to be just yourself. Meaning you have the potential to dash through the wave at the very first time if you wanted to, or you can go for the safe flame wave clear. But when you actually get to the wave, you're going to have your passive stacked up if you're going to be helping out the speed buff with your jungler. Meaning you're going to be very good at getting that push on in the early game. I think Agni right now is an S- tier character. There are a few characters I would put above Agni, but I would say he's more above the point of balance than people would give him respect for. Now, AMC. AMC going into Season 5 was hurt by the removal of Bluestone and the removal of Bumbers, as well as a few targeted nerfs, specifically at his hives. Reducing his movement speed, reducing his attack speed, has made him a bit weaker, considering he can't move around the fights as fast as he wanted to, and he can't kill you as quickly as he used to before. However, with Mage's Blessing in the game, he can proc each ability can proc it twice if he spaces them out enough, considering Bees is an ability that does proc Mage's Blessing. For example, if you swarm them at level 1, you're getting 2 procs of Mage's Blessing rather than just 1 if you're playing something like an Artemis using Suppress the Insolent. So he does have good poke ability out during the laning phase like he used to. In fact, it's a bit stronger now with removal of Bluestone, considering he procs Mage's Blessing a lot better than other ability-based hunters would proc Mage's Blessing. Overall, I think AMC is in a decent spot. I think you're going to be seeing him a fair bit in competitive play. I think you're going to be seeing him a fair bit at high ranked, but you're not going to be seeing him all the time like you would do some of the other characters on this list. I think AMC is... Ooh. I'm hesitant to put him in A+ or S-. That I really want to put him in between, but I think S- for now, where you can move him down later on if needs be. Alpwash. Don't know why Alpwash is in C. I can explain so at the end of the stream, but, well, yeah, he's a C tier character. Amaterasu is next up on the list, and she is one of the first characters on this. She is the first character on this list, and one of quite a few, a lot more than you think, who has good flexibility. And what I mean by that is she can be placed into multiple roles at once. She can be placed into the solo lane and do extremely well there. With the removal of Bluestone again, she does have a better laning phase. She's no longer poked out as easily. Everybody no longer has sustain innately because of having Death's Toll, for example. So Amaterasu does move up on the list a tiny bit. And I think, given her flexibility, given her strength in lane with the damage mitigation, with innate sustain that she has, as well as the ability to outpush most supports in that dual lane, she is a strong character right now. I think she is... given her flexibility, I think she is an S- character. On her. Again, removal of Death's Toll does weaken him a tiny bit, considering he doesn't have that sustain in lane, but he is a lot better these days, considering he does have that innate ability to just poke you out without you able to sustain up without potions. If people are having to rush Devourer's Gauntlets, then they do have that sustain, but they have to rush that sustain. It's no longer instant. It's no longer just there straight away. Thank you, Eyesight's Baby, for the host with 218 viewers. Hope you had a good stream, dude. Yeah, on her, really strong character right now, pokes people out in lane incredibly easily. The buff which he received just before Worlds, where he's able to clear the wave even if you block his Impale, coinciding with the changes to the starts that you see, as well as the fact that you have that support in lane with you to set up that Impale, to set up that Pillar Impale at level 2. I think he's a really strong character right now. I think he is one of the stronger hunters in the meta. I think he is an S tier character. Anubis. A lot of people are having a bit of a debate around Anubis right now. He's incredibly strong if you aren't countering him. He's incredibly strong if you aren't punishing him for being Anubis. So is Amma S- as a support, jungle, or solo? I'm putting her in S- as a general thing. I think there's still quite a few characters in solo lane who beat her. I think she does extremely well in support, and the flexibility is what pushes her up to that S-. Yeah, back to Anubis. So Anubis, at low level and mid level ranked, you'd see him in S-S, essentially, considering how strong he can be and how dominant he can be in the early game, especially with his push. It's almost unrivaled at level 1. At level 2, he then gets his grasping hands, to the point where you can't really contest his clear, and he's a bit safer. But at a high level and a competitive level play, you're going to be seeing teams counter-build Anubis. You're going to be seeing teams counter-draft Anubis. You're going to be seeing teams play around the fact that you have an Anubis. Anti-heal weakens him so much that a lot of the time, you see him perform so well on streams and in ranked, because there isn't any anti-heal on the enemy team. There's just one Pestilence, and people think, oh yeah, that's enough anti-heal, we can deal with Anubis now. Well, you can't. Anubis, A- character. Did no coach Alpha stream? Yeah. Is Pestilence alone enough to fuck Anubis, or do you need Brawlers and Divine Rune? You need a lot. I'd say you need about 60% anti-heal in general to be able to deal with him efficiently. Especially given that crit is no longer the if-so factor build for most characters. Alas is here as well, welcome. Alright, Mr. Ao Kwong. Again, he is on the same boat as the Anubis. The fact that if you don't counter-build him, if you don't play around the fact that there is an Ao Kwong in the game, you are going to suffer because that's what the character does. He punishes misplays extremely well. If you have an Ao Kwong on your team, your jungle clear in the early game isn't going to be that great, but given how often the jungle spawns and how mana-consuming it is, it does affect Ao Kwong still. His Wild Storm on a 7-second cooldown, it's one of the shorter cooldowns for jungle clears, but it's still draining his mana consistently. It's draining it faster than other abilities would drain mana given the longer cooldowns. And what's more, he can't really fight in the early game. He's really waiting for the fact that he hits level 5 to then start fighting, get those executes online, gain innate power, gain innate lifesteal, to then get to that mid-game point where he's able to just destroy the entirety of the game because he's unkillable. Again, you get anti-heal against the Ao Kwong, he's not as scary as before. Yes, he can still burst you down, but with the fact that Book of the Dead is in the game, in its current state, Ao Kwong can't execute those mages as quickly as he would like to. The shield will just absorb too much of the damage, as well as the fact that they have extra health because of Warlock Staff. So he's really looking for those hunters, which are going to be in the back line. Most of them have CC immune ultimates, most of them will have purification beads, most of the other supports just peeling for them consistently. Ao Kwong, in a competitive sense, I feel is A-. Alice just subscribed, thank you so much. Welcome to everybody who came from my stream, obviously. Aphrodite, B. I just see no real reason to pick Aphrodite in this meta. Anti-heal is very available to everybody, especially with the prevalence of assassins in the jungle over warriors like it was before. Divine Ruin is in a very good spot right now, having 15 pen on it rather than 10 pen it was before. You're going to be seeing a lot more teams draft anti-heal innately rather than just having it as in their kit. Aphrodite suffers as a consequence of it. Yes, the Undying Love is a great ultimate. She is a fantastic counter to gods like Poseidon who really rely on their ultimate to do damage. But Aphrodite as a whole struggles throughout the entirety of the game. So that's why I'm placing her in B. Now, we're on to Apollo. Apollo, I think, is in a better spot than most people give him. Audacity in the early game gives you 100% attack speed, as everybody knows. And with Hunter's Blessing, each auto attack you do is increased by 15. Well, it gives you 15 extra bonus power on it, which is then affected by mitigation, so you're really hitting for extra 12. But in those 5 basic attacks where you get those extra attacks off twice as fast, you're going to be almost killing the enemy Hunter if you're able to freely box them. You can't really box an Apollo in the early game in this meta, in my opinion, unless you're on her, unless you have abilities that lock him down from a safe distance, or unless your support is there to really stifle his ability to kill you quickly. I think Apollo is in a fantastic spot. I think the thing that holds him back, though, is his ultimate. His ultimate is meant to be one of those ones where you're split pushing, you then rotate all the way over to the fight, and then now it's a 5 versus 4. But you don't really dunk on into the fight, you dunk onto the back line of the fight, and then walk into it. You don't get that damage off like you would like to. You dunk into the middle of the fight with Apollo ultimate, you're just going to die instantly, unless your team is already in there backing you up. You've already won the fight, or the fight is already over. The fact that he doesn't have one ultimate, whilst another ADC who is in that fight will do, for example, Economos Wild Hunt, Centaurus from Chiron, will just be much more impactful because they're already there. They will use huge amounts of damage with those abilities. For that reason, Apollo, I believe, is an A+ character. I think if they give him buffs to his ultimate, he will immediately jump up to S-, maybe even S. But at this point, Apollo A+. Very lane dominant. Outside of that, not so much reason to pick him. Arachne. Absolutely no reason to pick Arachne. There is zero reason to pick Arachne right now. We'll actually just lock there. Zero reason. First time in a while, I think we have a D tier character. Coming into patch 5.2, Ares has received a significant buff to Shackles. They do more damage to minions. He now has the ability to wave clear as well as kill you in the early game. Ares, as we saw from DreamHack, has the potential to go into the solo lane as well in some favorable matchups. Is Mage's Blessing Arachne's OP? No. So, Ares, I think, is in a decent spot. I think he's pretty balanced right now. I think he has that risk factor about if you pick him, you can fall behind and just not have a support, but the reward is you have the support that will just instantly kill you and is unstoppable. I think he is pretty much balanced at this point. Maybe in a couple patches time when players will have the potential to really play characters that have full potential in the new map, we'll see him move up or down a bit, but I think right now he's perfectly balanced with the changes going into 5.2. Yeah, no, I'm not even commenting on Ice's statement. Artemis, of course, she's an S tier character. Didn't you know? Crit being nerfed doesn't really affect her. She still suffers from the problem in the fact that she is very easily gankable. Especially pre-level 5. She relies on beads. She has to use Blink in order to really get the full use out of her ultimate, as Pandacat has shown. With the nerf to Aegis, Blink does become a more attractive option on her to most competitive players. And I can see that as a small buff, but I can only see it as a small buff, not as something that will jump her up to S. I think Artemis, there can be reason to pick her, especially with the way crits are right now. With Deathbringer getting nerfed, her passive becomes slightly more attractive to proc it a bit more often. But I still think Artemis, you're not going to see too much of her. I think there are just characters that, if you want to dominate the lane, you would pick something like Apollo or an On Her. If you wanted to have a late game hyper carry, you'd pick something like a Jing Wei. There's just characters which fill her role better, in my opinion. I think she is... I think she's a B character. Artio, S+. She just can proc Mage's Blessing so often in that solo lane. Almost unstoppable in the solo lane at this point, I think. With the cripple area as well being a nuisance in team fights. With how small the jungle is as well. You guys also have to remember that the jungle got smaller. Yes, there's a lot more jungle in terms of the map size. but the overall area you can play in is about the same, even if a bit smaller. The corridors are narrower, meaning that cripple field feels like it's bigger. She can also flex pick very well to the support role, where again, she's incredibly dominant because of the fact that she procs Mage's Blessing so many more times than any other character. The thing that's holding her back is the fact that she doesn't have an ultimate, the fact that she has to get close range to do her CC, but if you're playing her in the solo lane, that doesn't matter. If you're playing her in support and you have another Guardian in the solo lane or a Guardian in the jungle, that doesn't matter. RTO is one of the strongest characters in this meta right now, and I would expect to see nerfs going to her in 5.3, maybe even 5.4. Athena. Global ultimates, allowing her to traverse the map every 110 seconds, going down to 90 seconds of max rank. Taunt on a ridiculously low cooldown, just constantly popping your beads, constantly popping your CC min ultimates, and eventually costing you your life. Good damage on the shield wall in the early game. Some mobility again with that dash. Has everything you want to the support right now. I think she is an S tier character. You can also play jungle, which is a big boon to her. You can pick an Athena, save your support for last pick, and they have to guess that Athena is support because that's where you most likely are going to be seeing her. A Wheelix. And with crit being nerfed, she's no longer trying to shoehorn a Deathbringer into a build. She's no longer trying to get the best DPS item into a build because it's the best DPS item. She can now fully embrace the Katana build that she was meant to be going into. She can even go to some attack speed as well if she wanted to use a stim as a steroid rather than as a CC pull. But she still has to get that ability off. She still takes time to get onto Asuka, which can cost her a life in that late game. She's a very, very close range assassin, which is why that gravity surge is so crucial to her. If you're not able to get that gravity surge off to bring people close to you, you are not going to be doing anything as that a Wheelix. She is a minus, in my opinion. Bacchus. When this season started, and everyone was going, oh, you either build damage on supports or you're not doing anything, Bacchus was considered a really strong character. Mainly because, well, he's a Guardian with innate damage mitigation, 14% in his kit, and he has the ability to burst you down as one of the most damaging supports out there because, well, that's what Bacchus does. He has good CC on his knockup, he has anti-heal on his stun, he has a very annoying CC on Intoxicate, but he's still just so lane resistant. Bacchus isn't really that good of a pick right now, considering you just don't get that pressure in lane that you need. You will just recede it consistently to other characters, to other picks out there, considering you're just not going to get the push on. With the fact that you no longer have Death's Toll to sustain you, you can pick Bacchus a bit more safely now. Considering you just flop on the enemy ADC, you belch them into a stun, most of their health is gone, and they have to either pop a meditation from the support, pop health pots, and basic attack down with Tier 1 Devourer's Gauntlets, or they have to back because, well, you've just full comboed them. The knockup is a really powerful effect in lane, but at the same point, if you're playing at a competitive level, the second a Bacchus flops into an enemy, he's relinquishes his escape, and he is then free pickings for you to just damage because he's got minion aggro on top of you. So Bacchus, in my opinion, is a B tier character. I say Tank Manor is a bit funner than Burst Winner. Bakasura. Hog is no longer in the game. He now has the only remnants of Hog in his kit in terms of Eat Minion. And again, you can't use that onto the jungle bosses. I think as a solo laner, he works incredibly well. Without Death's Toll, though, he no longer has that sustain from basic attacking. He has to get it through Eat Minions. But the fact that the minions do 40% less damage means that overall, you are going to be sustaining more than you are going to be taking, compared to what you were doing in Season 4. If you were looking for those kills, that is. You can evade their buff on cooldown, just deny them blue buff consistently. You can even play him in the jungle, secure your own jungle farm quicker than most junglers will be able to. However, he still suffers from his earlier problems. The fact that he has no real CC as a cripple. Yes, he does, but that's about it. He does true damage, sure, but that gets affected by true mitigation. Stuff like Spirit Robe, stuff like Oni Hunter's Garb, stuff like Bacchus' passive or Cyrus' passive, all will reduce the true damage from Butcher Blades. Bakasura is in a very weird state right now. I think he's in a balanced state. I don't see any reason you'd pick him, though. I think if you want somebody to go into the backline and just kill them, you pick something like a Camazotz. If you want something to dominate the solo lane, you pick something like a Cabrakan or an Artio. There's just roles that Bakasura fills are filled better by other characters. And for that reason, I think Bakasura is an A- character. Bastet got buffed with Transcendence buff. Getting 10% CDR off the bat from getting that Transcendence, massive to her. The fact that Deathbringer is no longer a must-buy item is, again, a buff to her. She could just go for the full mace build if she wanted to. She can go into some katanas if she wanted to. No longer has to buy that Deathbringer, because I saw some Bastets doing that. I still didn't think that even when it was busted in 5.1, you would have built the Deathbringer. She just doesn't have that great clear of the jungle. The clear is a lot slower. It's bleed damage. It's no instant like other characters. So the secure on buffs and the secure on jungle camps just isn't there like it would be for, say, an Alkwong. Or, say, a Daji. Or a Nemesis. Bastet punishes picks that can't deal with the Bastet. That can't cripple her, that can't lock her down. Because she's able to jump in, release all her abilities, and then jump back to a safe space. Gods like Ares, gods like Daji, those are gods that can punish her. Gods like Poseidon as well really do punish the Bastet. I think if I'm looking between the junglers which are currently on the table, I would want a Bastet over all three of them, but I would probably be reluctant to really pick the Bastet. I think Bastet's in a balanced spot right now. Talking about buff secure. Like, you've got the main buff holder. You have your Razor Whip versus your Horrible Burns. Horrible Burns, instant damage. Yes, it has some damage over time, but the main thrust of the damage does come out instantly, whilst your Razor Whip does come out over time. That's what I'm saying. Bellona. Extremely pressure heavy in that solo lane. Has sustained thanks to the Scourge, has good boxing potential thanks to all the different abilities, good clear thanks to the Bludgeon. Bellona in a really good spot right now. Yes, the loss of Death Toll does hurt her, but the fact that she has sustained from Scourge sort of offsets that a bit. I think she does have her bad matchups, like the RT that can stun out the Bludgeon instantly, can pretty much kill her. But the CC immune ultimate on the CC immune ultimate on a 75-second cooldown is a big boon to her, especially in teamfights. I think Bellona is a S tier character. Cabrakan can play 3 roles. Play support, play solo, can play jungle. I think his solo is probably the best role for him. He has good clear, he has good pressure, takes 5% less damage thanks to his passive, and thanks to Mage's Blessing, if he does opt into that, can pretty much kill you instantly. He'll kill you faster than he was able to kill you before. I think Cabrakan is a S- tier character, considering his flexibility and considering his damage output. Camazotz. Camazotz, as you all know from me, I think he can play solo lane as one of the best solo laners out there. I think he is top 3, in my opinion. Behind Artio, behind Kakullan, I think he is top 3. Can also play jungle. The thing that holds him back is his lack of CC. As we said with Bakasura, he only has a slow this time rather than a cripple, so you've got even less CC than the Bakasura. I do still think, though, that the Camazotz's damage output is a lot better, it's a lot more reliable. He has good poke, thanks to his Screech in the late game, doesn't have to get as close as you would do with other assassins. Has fantastic ability to apply Brawlers, fantastic ability to apply Crusher. I think he is a S tier character right now. The build for Canvas Solo really does depend not only on who you're facing in lane, but who your jungler is and who your support is. Because you still need that secondary front line, and if your jungler is also an assassin and your support is, for example, Amaterasu, you're going to need to build defensively to offset the fact that you don't have that Guardian. However, if you have a warrior in the jungle who's going to be building Bruisery, if you're going to have that true Guardian support, you can afford to go full damage and transition into that jungle-style assassin in that late game. You really have to look out for what you're going to be building from that solo lane, depending on your team composition, depending on the enemy composition as well. Cerberus. I think he's really good. I think at a high level, read up that up there, high level, you're going to be hitting your stun 75 to 80% of the time. I think when you hit that stun, you are doing a lot of damage to the enemy. Especially in that late stage of the laning phase, when you're level 6, level 7, level 8, maybe even level 9, you're going to be chunking them for about half their health. And if you're playing a Cerberus as a support, that's a kill. If your ADC is on the same ball as you, is on the same wavelength as you, and you stun the enemy ADC, take away half their health, that's a kill. Straight away. 2.2 second stun, taking away half your health is absolutely ludicrous. You can play him in support, you can play him in the solo lane. I honestly think that Cerberus is A+. I think he could do with a tiny bit of help. He does suffer from the fact that he has a very wide model, very easy to hit. His CC is really isolated to 1, maybe 2 people. He has a fantastic ultimate, but the delay on the ultimate, the fact that he's slowed down whilst casting it, allows people to escape, allows people to get out of it. I think he does have his weaknesses, but his strengths just about overshadow those weaknesses. Kurnanos. Probably one of the worst level 1 clears in the game, in terms of ADC. His Bramble Blast does absolutely nothing. But, if you're able to get out of the early laning phase, he is one of the strongest hunters out there. Lifesteal stats giving you extra 15% lifesteal on top of Devourer's Gauntlets giving you 24% is absolutely insane. People really undervalue the benefit of staying in lifesteal stance and just being able to sustain throughout the entirety of the fight whilst a couple of people are wailing on you, versus just about surviving when the same situation happens with another hunter. I think with the changes coming out in this last patch to Deathbringer, with attack speed builds becoming a bit more prevalent, he gets a buff. Considering he doesn't have any innate attack speed in his kit, he wants to try and build as much of that as possible on items. And he will not overcap like other characters will. I think Kurnanos does get a buff from the last patch. I think I would pick him at the same points as AMC. Get him out of his early laning phase, and you are laughing. Shark. Shark. I don't really see a reason to pick him right now. You want somebody in lane that does something, that doesn't lose? Well, why not just pick Artio? Does more in the team fight then. Want to pick an Erlang Shen, want to pick a Bellona, want to pick a Camazotz, and just kill the Chuck. Build Camazotz, get Brawler's first item, don't even get boots, you just kill the Chuck. There's no reason to pick him right now. Chunga, I think played at the absolute highest level to the best of her abilities, is one of the most infuriating characters in the game. Movement speed on the passive, immunity frames on the second ability, one of the most obnoxious stuns in the game, which does get slightly buffed due to the narrow corridors in the Season 5 jungle. I think Chunga is on a good level right now. That being said, she still has to get close range to do some of her damage. She still has to put herself in an awkward position to clear lane, unlike most mages in the game, which could put her in potential for a gank. Her solo lane would probably be the best lane to put her in, but to the same point, she just gets bullied out by the warriors, gets bullied out by most characters in that solo lane, especially something like an Artio. For me, you could put her in the jungle and that would probably be a better suit for her, but Assassins are just so goddamn good right now. Assassins are just absurd, that to the point where you wouldn't put an unorthodox mage like Chunga in the jungle, considering she's not really an assassin-style mage. For me, Chunga, I think she's balanced. I think she's an A tier character. Chiron. He doesn't have an identity. He really just does not have an identity. If you want somebody that will poke you out in lane with his AoE ability to clear the lane and poke you out at the same time, pick Hachiman. If you want somebody with a devastating teamfight ultimate, pick Hu Yi. Stuff that he does, anybody else in the ADC roster will do better. I think he can do with some buffs. I still think I would pick him over Artemis, but only slightly. And for that point, I think we're going to put him in B. I think he's a B tier character. Alright, let's go with trans. And that's like saying Arachne is good with Odysseus, but she doesn't deserve to be in D. I still think that just... You can flex pick him to mid, sure, but to the same point, I would rather have most of the other ADCs above him. Alright, time for Kronos. Kronos... It's difficult to really place him. There's two very distinct styles of Kronos that have different benefits, different drawbacks. You could build him as this auto-attack in-hand-based character, and you could do quite well. You could also build him as a true mage-style character. Use that stop time, use that time rift, but devastating amounts of damage, and it's still a good combo. The loss of Rod Tahuti as a core power item, though, really hurts the mage Kronos. It affects the ADC Kronos as well, but less so. With Warlock's staff being so prevalent on mages, he does have a better opportunity to take damage and rewind all of it. Whereas before, you were dying consistently because you didn't have much of a health pool. Now with the fact that you have Warlock's staff, Book of the Dead, you're able to sustain through that. I think Kronos is a decent pick. There are many more I'll pick above him, considering he does have awkward clear. He isn't that great in terms of a teamfight until later on. His CC is... It's linear. It's easy to see incoming. It can be dodged quite easily. If you're able to burst him down before he gets his rewind off, he doesn't have a team-fighting ultimate. I think he's a A- character. Caro needs Warlock, Sash, Poly, and Fatalis. Yeah. He sort of needs a lot of items to get online. Cullen! I think he's one of the best solo laners in the game right now. I think he absolutely just breaks solo lane as we see it right now. The ability to transform more waves than he was before, considering the waves are just so much tankier. The fact that he can get a Warrior's Blessing and just be absolutely unkillable, get a Mage's Blessing and just kill you still. I think he's an S+ character right now. You can play him in the jungle as well, and still destroy lives, because you're a Cullen. I think he's one of the top gods in the game. Cupid! I seriously don't see any reason to pick Cupid. Oh, there's a giant AoE cripple. Why not get Sprint? Why not get Beads? Why not get Aegis? He is extremely lane dominant, especially with Transcendence. I think he is more lane dominant than a Chiron would be. I think he is extremely good in the 1v1, but his lack of wave clear really lets him down. I think at this point, he is a B tier character. If he gets some form of wave clear online, if he gets some kind of advantage in lane, he is one of the best ADCs to have. But he just can't, you can't guarantee that you're going to get that advantage. At all. Where would you place Cucullin in the jungle in terms of a tier? I would place Cucullin jungle in about A+, S-. You can wave clear with you one, but then you lose kill potential. You lose your kill potential because you've just used your heart bomb. Meanwhile, gods like Hachiman, gods like Chiron even, will use their ability to clear the wave and poke you out at the same time. Gods like Rama will use their ability to clear wave and poke you at the same time. Heart Bomb's delay means that you can get out of that field and just be fine. You don't take damage. Yes, you kind of have to receive a tiny bit of lane pressure to do that, or you could just go for the archers and go aggressive onto them. If you have to use your Heart Bomb on the wave to clear it, you've then lost your kill potential onto the enemy. Daji. Daji doesn't really have to go clear in the early game. Level 1, 2, 3, and 4 has absolutely abysmal clear. Level 5 has her ultimate online and can then start to gank lanes a lot more effectively. I think with the changes to Transcendence, having a Transcendence, having a Heartseeker, having a Hydra's on your build, by the time you're level 12, 13 is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen coming out of Adachi. You will just insta-die if you're anywhere near her. She teleports onto you, she uses a 1, great, you're dead. Especially if she has that Heartseeker stacked up and uses the passive on it. So, Daji's early game really struggles to put her on a good placement anywhere above S-. I think if she can get to that mid-game stage where she's so goddamn terrifying, I think she is super strong. I can't justify putting her anywhere above S-, so that's where I'm going to put her. Discordia. She was a late game mage. She's still a late game mage. And the problem with most late game mages going into Season 5 was that Rod Tahuti was changed. So they lost a big chunk of their power in that late game, lost their ability to one-shot people in the late game. Discordia, however, did not. Discordia's abilities still chunk as hard as they did before. They still are as impactful as they were before. Especially that Strife. That AoE Strife field was what defined her as a character. Not her ultimate, it was the Strife. The ultimate was more gimmicky, it was more of a, okay, we're going to use that to just spread chaos around the team fight. The Strife was the thing which really stuck out to people, and it still is. I think Discordia still suffers from a lack of pressure in the early game in the mid lane, but not as much as she did earlier. Not as much as she did last season. I think Discordia is a really good pick right now. I think I would pick her on the same point as I would pick an Agni. A lot of mages got plus 25% power and Rod got changed. If anything, it was an overall buff to mages. I could agree to that. Erlong Shen. S. Playing solo lane extremely well. Playing support to absolutely unfathomable degree of annoyingness. Get your Mink, get Hunter's Blessing, go on ANM ADC, they have to run away because they can't fight you. Erlong Shen as a support is one of the most infuriating things I've ever faced in Season 5. Let it be known that the second Hunter's Blessing is nerfed, Erlong Shen is going down the tier list and good riddance to him. But for now, please don't play him support in my games, I am going to fucking kill you. Fafnir. Fafnir is a very contentious pick right now. I think we're going to put him here. A+. I think he is really good still. I think the fact that he has 0.5 seconds less on his stun changes his position a lot. Before, with that 1.5 second stun, you were able to transform, and they had to use a movement ability to get out of your transform AoE, or take that tick damage, which was a big thing. Now, with that 1 second stun, they can quickly just walk out of it, may have to sprint, may have to use a movement ability if they're stuck right in the center, or if they're slowed beforehand as well. I think Fafnir loses a lot of his pressure because of it, but he still has that innate ability to just buff his ADC, let him go absolutely crazy. Still has that ability to just burst down objectives thanks to that AoE Coerce. I wouldn't mind Fafnir going down to D. He still has a lot to offer to a team. He still has a lot to offer. Fenrir. Fenrir, what to do with Fenrir? That's what we do with Fenrir. I think he's decent solo lane. Especially with Warriors. In fact, we're going to put him up to A-. Because of the fact that he can flex pick to solo lane. I think that sort of saves him from being a B character. You can put A-. You can even flex him to support, but even then that's sort of like a gimmicky strat that you do with stuff like a Cupid, for example, just as a kill lane. But Fenrir still struggles with the fact that you have to jump into the middle of the fight, pick somebody up, and bring them back. If they use their beads, or if anybody uses their beads from the stun jump, you're just in the worst position possible and probably going to die. And then your ultimate's just not usable. In the early game, he can get a lot of pressure off. He can get your team ahead and get them to the point where you can snowball the game out of control. Sure. But it's difficult to do that in a high-level competitive game. Considering what's going to be placed consistently, you're going to know where the Fenrir is a lot of the time, you're going to know where he's going to gank. And at that point, there's just no reason to pick him, in my opinion. You can play him in a solo lane and build him as this bruiser to initiate and then burn beads for your support to then go in and use their initiation to get a devastating combo off with the rest of your team. That's where I think he's strongest. Playing him in that solo lane role, playing him as that bruiser. And as an assassin, that shouldn't really be where your best role is, in my opinion, unless it's sort of like, unless you have a specific kit. Freya. We're talking about high-level competitive play, Freya is okay. We're talking about ranked, Freya is broken beyond anything. Considering people don't focus on Freya, people don't buy anti-heal against a Freya. Suffers from the same thing that Anubis and Ao Kuang do. But it's just innately better even if you do buy anti-heal because she does excruciating amounts of damage. I think she is an S- character in terms of competitive play. Ganesh. Ganesh. Okay, so let's preface this by saying you're not allowed to use the DJ Ohm skin. If you're allowed to use the DJ Ohm skin, he's obviously SS. Obviously. That goes without saying. But has decent pressure, can't steal your kills, will instantly give you the stacks, even if he clears the wave. His ultimate is a bit hard to use, but a bit easy to use on this new map, considering, again, the tighter corridors, which is going to be a theme for most of these characters. Is the tighter corridors benefit them. I still think, though, his main issue is that his hard CC is stuck to a single target. The fact that he really lacks that big, strong initiation that you want onto a giant AoE field, like a Geb Cataclysm, like a Sylvanas Wrath of Terror. I think Ganesh right now is an A+ character. I'll pick him at the same point that I'll pick a Fafnir. Simple as that. Honestly, hard CC? It is, but at the same point, I really wouldn't technically classify it as a hard CC. You get what I'm saying? Like, his ability to set up picks and peel is nuts, though, sure. But once you're into that mid-game, once you're into the late game where you're grouped up as a 3-man, as a 5-man, you put yourself out of position to set that kill up, to set that position up. With hard-hit abilities, then become easier to hit. It's a big thing. Geb, I think, is a really strong character. I think he does suffer from a lack of lane presence, as he has always done, but his cleanse is ridiculously good. His ability to just initiate fights is really good. With the nerf to Deathbringer, though, his passive becomes less valuable, considering you're just going to be eating Kin's damage, you're going to be eating Titan's Bane damage, instead of that crit damage. Overall, I would pick Geb above Fafnir. I'd pick Geb above Ganesh. At that point, I think he's an S- character. Why is Apollo A+? Because of the fact that Hunter's Blessing is a thing, and he can proc it twice as fast in the laning phase, but he doesn't have an ultimate, so he's sort of like, he's lane dominant, but that's about it. Guan Yu. Guan Yu can play 3 roles to moderate success. Playing him in support, you get pressure unless you're against stuff like a Ganesh, unless you're against stuff that can interrupt his clear very easily, like a Kuzumbo can do so. Like, that's something I only found out very recently, was that the fact that a Kuzumbo can sumo slam a Guan Yu out of his Talent Assault. Jungle, his clear is slow, especially compared to some of the more instant clearers like a Naja. I think Guan Yu is in a balanced state right now. There's potential for him to be an A- as well, but I would pick Guan Yu over stuff like a Fenrir or a Bakasura most of the time anyway. Please consider Guan Yu with Blackthorn Hammer. It's kind of nutty. He just never loses mana. I consider the fact that every solo laner with permanent blue buff never loses mana. If he loses his blue buff, then Blackthorn Hammer becomes a thing, but Guan Yu really shouldn't be losing too much pressure in lanes. One is better than A? Type out why you think he's better than A, convince me. And I will move him up. If you can't convince me, he stays in A. Hachiman! I'm gonna preface this just by putting him here in S-. Better than Apollo? Put him on the same platform as Kurnos and Muzenkab? Maybe move him up to S, put him on the same platform as Yonher. Yeah, I think he has a better team fight presence than Yonher. I think he's got a better laning phase than a Kurnos. I think he's just a good mix of both of these characters into one. Hades. Still have to stand still for Pillar of Agony, do most of your damage. The fact that Typhon's Fang is in the game means he can actually sustain through most of the damage he takes if he catches 3 or 4 people, but it's still just a lot to... It's a lot of what ifs, and it's a lot of if this happens, then this happens sort of thing, to get Hades to be a good pick. B tier. One is better than A, it depends on the draft. If you're having to have a draft-dependent character, that speaks as a B-tier character. But the fact that he's an A is a minor miracle. Ebo! S+. Incredibly strong in the jungle. 3-second cooldown on Water Hands is absurd. He's allowed to farm up in the jungle as well and get to that late game hyper carry stage, which he truly wants to be. When we were talking about Chunga, we talked about jungle, we're talking about assassin style mages that can go in the jungle. Hebo is one of them, through and through. He's a very strong jungle pick right now. The fact that you can survive burst because of Warlock Staff, because of Book of the Dead, means he no longer has to worry about the fact that he has to get Blink. Because he just survives. He kills you and survives because of it. Hebo is one of the strongest picks in the meta right now. Do you think it's possible for a character like Hebo to ever be balanced? He's like always either to be a top pick or one of the worst gods in the game. No. I think Hebo's kit, along with something like Arachne's kit and Alpasha's kit, is innately designed to snowball. I think that if they can't snowball, they're trash. If they can snowball, they're the best god in the game. So, would you get Assassin's Blessing on Hebo jungle? Yes. Al relies on the fact that it's single target. Al relies on the fact that he has to get that execute off. Just stealth in and out of fights. You can't really do that. You have to try and kill the mage, which you can't do because of Book of the Dead, because of Warlock Southwest. With Hebo, you really can't, because you're doing your knock up on your water spell and your water hands are going to do 2,000 damage. Hebo has better presence in the early game than Ao Kuang as well. Hebo has better presence throughout the game than Ao Kuang does. Where do you normally build Book of the Dead now? 4th item? 5th item? Depending on where you can put it. Hell! A-. I think Hell is better than an Aphrodite. I think the fact that you still have a lot of anti-heal in the game available to you puts her down. but she can still play support and pressure out and snowball the game as you would do in Season 4 even. With Odin no longer being a top priority pick in the jungle, she becomes a bit better. And in the right hands, she is able to be played as S or even S+. But we're talking about the majority of players playing Hell in either mid, in solo, or support. There are only a handful I would say Hell is viable on. I'd say that Hell, as a whole, is difficult to get right, especially with the amount of anti-healing, especially with Curse Dunk being in the game. I think Hell is an A- character for this reason. Hercules, as I turn off caps locks for some reason. Again, he's got the fact that he relies on his healing so much. The difference between Hercules and many of the other characters that rely on healing is the fact that he still outputs damage regardless of his healing. If you build anti-heal against a Hercules, he can still kill you. You just have the ability to kill him as well. I don't think he's that great in lane, though. It's a big thing. I think he's one of the few gods in the game that will still run dry on mana in the laning phase. Even with the fact that you have blue buff. I think he's strong. I think I'll pick him above the Guan Yu. But that's as high as I can put him. But the Hell can play multiple roles, she'll put her in A. I still think she could do with a tiny bit of help. And that is the thing. If she was an A, then I think the character needs no help whatsoever, needs no buffs, needs no nerfs. If Hell's an A-, I think just a tiny bit of help up here, like lowering the amount of dots her heal does and increasing the heal per dot so it's about the same, that will put her in A, in my opinion. General public non-com play, what it sounded like. I'm talking about the fact that if I'm looking at the general competitive play populace, only a couple people would still be able to play Hell, is the thing. We'll save Hell again. We'll save Hell again for afterwards if people really want to have an open discussion about it. For now, she's staying in A-. She might move up to A if people think so. Hu Yi. I think Hu Yi is in a great spot right now. I think Hu Yi is one of the best hunters potentially pick, but it's still fall short of being picked above gods like Onher, gods like Hachiman. I don't know, would I pick a AMC and a Kernos over Hu Yi? Maybe. Would I pick a Freya over Hu Yi? Probably. I think Hu Yi right now has good teamfight presence, has good lane clear. The fact that we're going back into attack speed builds does benefit him a bit, but it also means that he gets less use out of his passive. Has one of the worst passives in the game outside of crit metas. If it was still a crit meta, or still a meta where everyone was buying crit, he would be S-, maybe even S. But the fact that we're going back to attack speed builds, which does benefit him, also benefits the other characters more, considering they no longer have to worry about Hachiman's passive really affecting their DPS against him. Hunt Bats. He has decent jungle clear. Overhand Smash does take a bit of time to clear, but considering it's a channeled ability, probably best to start off with Monkey Throw. He has a great teamfight presence. I think he's one of the best assassins for a teamfight. I think he is a A+ character. With changes to Hydras, with changes to Transcendence. Well, Hydras didn't really get changed. The fact that he builds it. The fact that Deathbringer gains more crit power from its passive in 5.2 is a indirect buff to Humbats. His passive is semi-contextual crit, which means that any buff to the extra damage from Deathbringer is a semi-buff to Humbats, considering you always have that chance of getting that extra crit. You like him as much as you do Hachi? Again, like, Hu Yi is probably one of the more divisive picks, in my opinion. I think if the Gold Fury and Fire Giant were harder to kill than they are right now, you would see him be placed higher. Considering every ADC on the planet can face tank Gold Fury and kill it within 5 seconds, especially if the team rotates, Hui doesn't have that much value in terms of a burst composition. Still great. We'll see where other assassins fall, and then again, we'll come back to the list after we've completed it, and then move characters around based on where we see other characters. Isis. Strong lane presence, strong objective presence. And she's got good objective secure, whilst everybody has good objective burst these days, so the objective secure becomes a bit more of a thing to get. Good teamfight presence with the Spirit Ball, with the silence, with that heal, as well from the Circle of Protection, as well as the damage mitigation coming out from the Circle of Protection. The heal is less of a thing, because everybody's going to be buying Divine Ruin, Projector's going to be buying Brawler's Beatstick, Pestilence is going to be built, Cursed Onk might even be built if you have dedicated healers on your team. I could see Cursed Onk being a real big thing against Isis, considering you just have to worry about when that Circle of Protection comes down, pop that Cursed Onk, the second that Circle of Protection pops, boom, they're taking 20% more damage, you can then bite into them despite the fact that they've just healed up most of their health bars. She's got one of the best ultimates in the game for a teamfight presence if utilized at the highest level, which is what we're talking about here, the highest level of play. I think she is a balanced character. I think, though, I would put her in A+. Pick her over a Chang'e any day of the week. Yes, this is Conquest. Another point about Hui, though, is if you are going to be seeing him played consistently, he will move up as players get more used to the triple bounces around the jungle, as well as the camp clear. Is it Nami? When she was on PTS, she was the most broken character in the game, considering Hunter's Blessing procced on every single hit of the boomerang attack and every single hit on the way back, so it was instantly just... So, it was just instant clear at level 1. You couldn't fight into it. They changed it so it only procs on the first sting hit, on the first swing of the boomerang basics. Still clears pretty fast, doesn't need the mana sustain like anybody else, but everybody gets 10 MP5 from Hunter's Blessing, so that really does become a thing. Smaller jungle means her was it Dark Portal, I think is the ultimate ability name, becomes a bit easier to hit. Her stealth dash is a big thing, though. The fact that she goes to stealth is a big thing, but with characters having bleed, with items like Crusher being so prevalent on builds, she doesn't have her invisibility. She just has a slow wind-up dash that goes about 55 units. It's not that impressive, it's not that safe, especially without CC immunity on her kit. Izanami, I think, is the same point as Apollo. She just has an ultimate. Yeah, like I said before, Freya, if this was a ranked tier list, Freya would be SS. Janus. S. I think he's one of the strongest mages in the game. Excluding the fact that he has better presence around the map because of his global ultimate, the changes to Rodzahuti really didn't affect him that much. The increase to cooldown reduction availability, in the fact that Chronos Pendant is now a attractive item given that it does 100 power, has 20% CDR, has that extra cooldown reduction on it. Cooldown boots are a very attractive option. He doesn't really have to be shoehorned by the Warlock Staff and the Book of the Dead builds. He can still just go for a straight power build with Book of Thoth into something else as well. Really lets Janus have more flexibility in build viability, build options, and playstyle. I think Janus is one of the best mages, and once we see Book of the Dead taken out of the meta, once we see Warlock Staff taken down a few pegs, Janus' viability is only going to go up from there. Like, if you're assuming hitting every 2, that's not really a thing. And again, in competitive, there is the chance that Janus can be focused the second he goes through the wall with his portals. We're assuming that he hits more Civil Vortexes than he misses, and we're assuming that most of the time he's able to get through a portal, uses Uncivil Vortex, and then get out. His viability really comes from his team presence, so he's able to increase the movement speed of his team, increase the mobility of his team through the walls, able to decrease the mobility of the team through the slow. He is all-round almost a must-have character. Almost. I think one of his big weaknesses, though, is his early game. I think if you have something like an Isis, something like a Raijin, you can really stifle his ability to play the way you want to play him. I hit most of the 2, but you said you were hitting every 2, which you're not going to. Jingwei. Crits are no longer as available as they were going to be. During Deathbringer got nerfed, but Jingwei's viability does come down a bit. I do think, though, that she's one of the strongest hunters in the game still. Able to go back to base pretty much every wave for free. Backs are on a 60-second cooldown. She goes back to base every other wave, gets backs, gets ahead of the enemy ADC, able to rotate into the fights, and then just win the game from there, considering she's Jingwei. I think she is an S-tier character right now. Her passive does not get her to lane as quickly as it did in Season 4. But that's a non-factor, considering it's just going to go for backs and then go into the lane. You can get your Devourer's Gauntlets online earlier than most ADCs. You can get your power online earlier than most ADCs. You can rotate to fights a lot earlier than most ADCs. She is one of the fastest ADCs at rotating to fights around your jungle. Kali, I think... I want it to be good. I really do. I want to put her in like A+, maybe an S-, but... You just can't. You really just can't. She takes too long to get online. Katanas are her friend, and with the removal of Deathbringer being shoehorned into her builds as the same was for a Wheelix, she becomes a bit better. But to the same tune, she still suffers from clear. She still suffers from a lack of want for her. Kali's kit is one of those kits where you really just go, I must have this character because she's a almost guaranteed win condition. But the amount of CC that you can draft on the team is insane these days. She can get locked down very easily, especially even with her Destruction Ultimate. She can still get locked down and get killed. If you have anti-heal on your team, she is not going to get benefit from her passive almost whatsoever, considering the heal is going to be minuscule if you get an assist, and about half as effective, maybe 75% less effective if you get the kill in the first place. I see more reason to pick a Kali than I do an Wheelix, but you still shouldn't really be picking either. Khepri. I'm struggling to place Khepri somewhere. I really am. Do you think the cast time of her ultimate hurts a lot? It makes it way harder to get off a perfect ultimate. Talking about Kali, I think one of the big things and one of the big buffs that they could do to her, which could probably break her, really, is able to cast the ultimate under CC, apart from knockups. Give her the same treatment you give Aphrodite ultimate. That would probably break her, but that would be the buff that I would give her. Khepri. Moving on to Khepri now. As a revivalist ultimate, that's a big selling point. Doesn't matter where I place him, he's just going to get nerfed again. Calling it now, in 5.3, they're just going to have a random Khepri nerf for some reason. Alright, let's just put him in balance right now and see what that does. He is ridiculously awkward in team fights, but I think I'd pick him at the same point I'd probably pick an Ares. I'd want a Ganesh and Fafnir over him any day of the week. I think he does have good lane presence. I think he has good lane push. I think his revivability in fights is good. He just suffers from the same problem Ganesh does. In fact, he has to put himself out of position. It's just a lot worse. Yeah, exactly. The ultimate is great, and the fact that they made its cast time instant is good for him. But it's just so awkward to really put a Khepri into a team comp when there's so many better supports out there. Talking about the general populace. We're talking about the general populace, competitive populace, sorry, Kalas. Kukulkan. Perfectly balanced. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but Warlock, Staff, and Book of the Dead really help his survivability. I think he has safe clear thanks to his tornadoes. Doesn't really rely on anything. The tighter corridors make his ultimate a bit better in the jungle. Kumbhakana. What changes would you suggest to make Capri bug you less? I want Rising Dawn to have an attack speed slow. I know it sounds weird, but I want Rising Dawn to have an attack speed slow. I think it'll give him a good identity in the fight as a protector. So, moving on to Kumbhakana. Groggy Strike is an annoying ability in the game. I think it really does... It really does put him in an awkward spot, though, considering you have to charge up that ability, just take a few basic attacks to then slam down on your opponents and root them. And in those few seconds, in that late game, you are probably going to die as you cast Groggy Strike. Blink Mez is one of the best initiations in the game. You're not gonna blink, you're not gonna beat a Mez. Most of the time, you will have to, though, considering that Mez is going to be followed up by an Epic Uppercut, it's going to be followed by a Body Slam, going to be followed by any other ability in the game from the mages, which are going to be following up from it. Kumbhakana, I would put him in A-. Pick him over a Bacchus, would pick a Kepri and an Ares over him pretty much every single day of the week. Kuzenbo. With crits no longer being the dominant thing, he falls down in viability. When a crit meta is around, Kuzenbo is always around. I think he does soloing extremely well. Mage's Blessing into Breastplate of Valor Rush with your blue buff, 40% CDR, straight away, done. You just win lane. There's not much that can contest you. He is a massive lane bully. He can play support well as well. He can even play jungle, but I wouldn't really put him in jungle with assassins being as prominent as they are. I think Kuzenbo is an A+ character. I think people are really sleeping on the viability of Kuzenbo, especially in the solo lane right now. His zone potential is one of the best, if not the best zone potential in the game. And if played to the best of his abilities, I don't see a reason why Kuzenbo isn't viable. I could be a bit biased on Kuzenbo, you're right. Loki, in a competitive sense, no reason to. I think he's a... Ooh... I think he's a C-tier character, in terms of competitive level games. The changes to Transcendence really help him. Hydras and Heartseeker are really good. Can't really split push as he would like to before, but minions able to survive towers a bit longer really helps him split push. Might actually be a B-tier character. I think he's a B-tier character. I'm gonna stick with that now. B-tier character for Loki. His teamfight is a bit better than it was in Season 5, but he still no longer has 4 abilities. He still doesn't have 4 abilities in the teamfight. Decoy's just not a reliable damaging tool. Medusa. I don't know, Hunters are just so goddamn good right now. Hunters are really good. I think Medusa's one of the better Hunters, but I think she's S-. Viper Shot with Hunter's Blessing is pretty much a guaranteed kill. End of. Mercury. Deathbringer no longer a thing. In a competitive standpoint, Mercury suffered from the same problems as he has done throughout the entirety of Smite. You just focus him the second he ults into a teamfight, he's gone. He could just build katanas as freely as he wants to these days. Deathbringer and Wind Demon give him all the crit that he really needs, I feel. It's 45% now. Could do with a tiny bit more. We'll see what happens in 5.3 with the crit changes, but for now, I don't really see a reason to pick a Mercury. I think he's an A- character in terms of a competitive standpoint. Like, this is, again, just a general populace. If we're doing a tier list for individual characters, for individual players, we put Mercury on Mask and Hell on a Milsey up near the top, considering they can play them to the highest level. We take your average SPL and minor league jungler, average SPL and minor league support / solo laner for Hell. This is where I would place them. Najah. This is going to surprise all of you. I think Najah is an S+ character. I think Najah is one of the strongest gods in the game right now. The Deathbringer nerf is a buff to Najah. Najah's ultimates crits are contextual crits. Ring bounce, one of the best clearing tools in the game. You just throw your ring toss at backs, and boom, they're cleared. Movement speed allows you to get around the jungle a bit better, considering it's a movement speed stim tied to the end, giving you to use a buff rather than tied to the cast time of an ability, like it is through some characters. I think that Najah is one of the best characters in the game. I really do. Neath. There's just no reason to pick Neath. There really is just no reason to pick Neath in the ADC position when other ADCs are just as lane dominant and have better presence in the game. There really is just nothing to pick Neath for. Nemesis. Really strong presence in team fights. Good clear in the jungle from about level 4, level 6 onwards. One of the few characters in the game that still has the ability to shred a tank of all of their protections near enough. I think Nemesis right now is an S tier character. Crit being out of the picture, she just comes a bit better as well. Katanas all the way. Neath has boobies though. Did you see that though? Yeah. Don't forget, Najah can play jungle, can play support, can play solo lane. Don't think you'll see solo lane in a high level competitive, but support and jungle, really strong flexibility there. Also, they're using the old card out here for Najah, and that's creeping me the fuck out. Nike. When she was changed in 5.1, they said we're going to keep a very close eye on her win rate, considering it was already astronomically high, and they kind of buffed her by making sure that she couldn't get knocked up during the cast of her Rend. Hasn't changed much about her. Hasn't changed much about her in a competitive sense. I think she is an A-tier character. I think she's fine the way she is right now. There are reasons to pick her. It's mainly her passive. But she's just overshadowed by other characters. I think she's balanced. Nox. We're talking about Zardes as Nox. We're going to put Nox somewhere like S- A+. 100%. But the general population of Nox players out there isn't that high, and for good reason. As a setup-based mage, you don't really want to have her as your main mage. But to the same tune, the CC that she has is single-target focused. She has a good ultimate for the teamfight, fantastic ultimate for the teamfight. Reducing the damage the enemies are doing is a really strong ability that not many other characters in the game have. However, Nox just doesn't see the play. She's just overshadowed on other roles by other characters. I think Nox is A-. Nox is really good in solo. I think Mando Warrior's got some strats that we don't know about. Let's tell Death to get on that one. Noir. When Rod's Hootie got changed, she got significantly nerfed. She really doesn't have that much going for her in the early game, apart from Protection Shred, thanks to the minions dashing into people, as well as a good AoE stun thanks to exploding set minions. But without Road to Hootie, she no longer had that massive power spike before she was full build with a couple potions onto her, and Red Buff and a Fire Giant. She really relies too much on getting to that late game stage to be impactful these days. Yes, the instant vision for a few seconds because of her ultimates, uncounterable, is really good. I just think that there's just no reason to pick the new one. Still rather have the new one than the Alposh? Same. I still would rather have the new one than the Alposh. I think it was a B tier character right now. Odin. Odin's balanced. Strong early game, has drawbacks, has an impactful ultimate. He's just balanced. He has his counters, he has his good matchups. He's just straight up balanced. You still might see nerfs on him though, considering some people can still play him to a ridiculously high level. Without Bluestone, he loses a bit of his early game, is the big thing. He has to go into mages, and to that, you can't really go mages in the jungle. You have to go mages in support or in the solo lane. If he goes mages in the solo lane, he just dies, considering he's jumping on the wave. Osiris is next up. One of the few characters in the game with damage mitigation built into his kit. One of the tankiest characters out there in the game right now. Still think he is on par with the other two basic attack solo laners. I think Erlang Shen, Bellona, and Osiris are going to be making up the crux of a few drafts. Erlang Shen less so, but more geared towards the support and jungle potential is the Erlang Shen pick here. Cullen and Artio are going to be your two big solo laners in this coming split. I think those two are the big ones. Poseidon. Moving on to Poseidon. Where's Cullen? He's an S. S+. Poseidon. I would pick Poseidon at the same point I'll pick Isis. I'd much rather have a Discordia in some comps than I would do a Poseidon. I think I'd rather have Poseidon over Discordia in some comps as well. However, as we talked about many times before, Book of the Dead, Warlock Staff. Big counter to a character that really wants to burst down the others. As the Book of the Dead shield can just save somebody from that crack and burst combo. It's still a fantastic combo to have, still just instantly ends the teamfight, but it's no longer going to insta-kill the mage. The only person that's really going to insta-kill is the ADC. I think Poseidon is an A+ character. Does Poseidon have great FG secured this season? About Fido Photo. Fifto Fofto. Whatever, however you say it. Ra! Anti-heal is a bitch, isn't it? It really is a bitch. I think he's pretty much the same as Kukulkan. Except Kukulkan doesn't really suffer from a lack of counter building. Can't really counter build the Kukulkan. However, Ra's damage is a lot more confirmable. Ra's damage is a lot easier to land, and he has better self-peel in my opinion. I think Ra and Kukulkan share some weaknesses, share some strengths. I think that they would be picked on roughly the same par as each other. When he lost Fatalis on Poseidon, I quit playing him. I think most people did as well. On to Raijin. Raijin did receive a hefty nerf going into Season 5, and for all good reason. He was probably the best god in the game at Worlds. Just unstoppable in that mid lane. He still kills you in one combo. He just no longer kills your entire team in one combo. I'd much rather have a Janus over him. I still think he is decent. I'd much rather have a Raijin over a Kukulkan and a Ra. I think I'd pick him on the same tier as I'd pick Poseidon and Isis. I think he's an A+ character right now. Maybe going up to S- after some discussion, considering that Agni and Discordia are up there. Still would pick Janus over him every day of the week. Still pick Janus over him. Rom. I think he's really good. I think he's one of the better ADCs in the game right now. There's a lot of hunters above. There's a lot of hunters up here, and then we just have no hunters here. No hunters here, then down here to Artemis, Cupid, and Chiron. I'm really biased on hunters, it seems. Considering I've got Skadi and Order to go through as well in terms of a competitive standpoint. One of the best gods in the game when the crit meta was around, considering his story allowed him to cap out his attack speed. Ooh, where would I place Ram? Where would I place him? I'll place him in S- for now. I think he is strong. I think that Jingwei is a bit stronger than him right now, and Hachiman as well. Ratatasker. A lot of people thought it'd be extremely prevalent going into the season because of his ability to traverse the map, which is why he received preemptive nerfs. Those preemptive nerfs really stifle his ability to be a presence in this meta. I think he's in a balanced state right now. I'd pick combats over him every day of the week. I think Ratatasker is balanced. Yeah, Ram's always going to be a good character. Ram's always going to be a thing. Now we're on to Raven. Ram, Ratatasker, Raven. Again, Raven received nerfs, rightly so, after Worlds because he was just so goddamn prevalent in the Worlds meta. Or, I think it was banned throughout the entirety of the semi-finals, the entirety of the finals. For good reason. He was just too powerful. Going into the season, I think he is still powerful. I still think he offers a lot to a team composition. But the prevalence of assassins in the jungle now really knocks down his viability. It's no longer, oh, you can place warriors in the jungle, they do the exact same thing, considering you're just with your team the entire time. No, you're clearing jungle by yourself. Night Cycle cooldown on Prana Onslaught is a good thing, considering it allows him to clear, allows him to compete with the clear of other junglers. However, I think that his presence in teamfight just isn't as much as it would be given how strong other assassins are. Given all of that, I think I'll place him on the same tier as Hombats. I think he's an A+ character. Damage mitigation is a big thing. It just takes a while for his damage mitigation to come online from his ultimate. With gods going back into attack speed builds rather than crit builds, with builds featuring kin size, executioner coming online a bit earlier now, Raven does fall down in viability from where he was in the last patch. We got 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 gods left. And we move on to Scylla in the mid lane. I think Scylla's in a good spot right now. I think with the fact that it takes all mages a couple of abilities to clear wave at level 1, it still takes Scylla 3 abilities. Fair enough. I think that Scylla is in a balanced state right now. I just think she's balanced. I think she has her drawbacks. She has that potential to just win fights as per usual. Good CC on her root, good damage on her crush, good damage on her ultimate, good survivability on the fact that she has a dash, but still suffers from the fact she has almost zero lane presence. You know that once an ult can change an entire team fight? Holy shit, dude. Oh my lord, that is SS material right there. Sir Cat. She's just the best character in the game right now. amazing jungle clear, good CC, just insta-kills. You could still build that bruisery style if you wanted to, but really does well with the damaging abilities that she has, as well as the damaging items that are in this season. Innate anti-heal on the kit, true damage coming out from her ultimate. She is the best character in the game. I can't justify putting her in SS because considering she's not so broken that the second you got her, you've won the draft. There's still ways you can beat the Circuit. There's still the potential to beat the Circuit in a competitive play. In ranked, who's the best god? I think Circuit's the best god in ranked, followed up by Freya, then Hebo. Skadi. From a competitive standpoint, I think A+. Maybe even A. But the fact that we're going away from crit builds really plays to her favor, considering she wants to go for this pen transcendence build. So she doesn't go from... She doesn't go down to A or even A-. She goes to A+. Dobek. Flexibility in the terms you can play him in the solo lane support. Good presence in both. I think he's an A+ character as well. The flexibility is what stops him from going into just straight up A, in my opinion. Sol. I think Sol is perfectly balanced right now. I think she does have a strength in the fact that she can just go immune with slow immunity and just absorb a bit of damage if she times it perfectly, as well as a good heal on her kit with her Radiance. But you just get some anti-heal against her. You get some anti-attack speed against her if you wanted to. She's just the same as pretty much any other mage in the game, just with a tiny bit better survivability. Still easily focusable, still able to just get her beads, back out, then gank her again and kill her. Does Kelda crit? No, Kelda does not crit. Sun Wukong. I see no reason to pick a Sun Wukong. I really don't see any reason to pick a Sun Wukong. I'd still pick him at the same point as I'll pick a Guan Yu, though. I'd consider Sun Wukong at the same point, considering you just have about the same amount of CC. You have better ability to tank up abilities from the Wukong, but you have better self-teamfight presence with the Guan Yu. You have better ability to affect your team with the Guan Yu than you do the enemy team. Yeah, you pick Sun Wukong because he's super fucking fun, sure, but in a competitive game, you're not picking gods because they're fun, you're picking gods because they're the best gods in the game. Susanoo. Susanoo's next on the list. For the loss of Bluestone, his early game becomes a bit less scary. But the second he gets a couple of items online, the second he gets a Transcendence online right now, considering that's what all junglers do, he just becomes insane. I think Susanoo is one of the better assassins in the game. But I think you can't justify picking him over a Humbats. I think he's an A+ character right now. Again, in the right hands, Susanoo is absolutely absurd. But with all other junglers able to output pretty much the same level of DPS, whilst having better presence in teamfights, yes, his Typhoon is a good teamfight ultimate, but so is Humbats, Fear No Evil. In fact, it's even better considering it's better setup, I feel. I can't justify putting Susanoo above Humbats, so Susanoo is an A+ character. By Major Blessing with Susanoo, it's basically the same thing. Then you don't have as good jungle play. You don't have the sustain in the jungle like you would do with other characters. Sylvanas, one of the supports which actually finds his way up near the top of the tier list. I think you pick up the same point as you pick up a Geb. Maybe a bit higher. Probably a bit higher. I think he's just so good right now. Early game root sustain because of the fact that he has wisps. Yes, he doesn't have that much mobility, but you just slap on a pair of Traveler's Boots on him, you're fine. You then have your Guardian's Blessing give you extra gold, meaning you don't really fall behind in terms of build, meaning you're a bit tankier than you were in Season 4. Good initiation with his Blink Wrath of Terror. Great laning phase because he has those AoE basic attacks and has the ability to just reduce your protections thanks to that root. He does everything you want him to support right now apart from mobility, which is why he's not in S+ as Artia would be. DC's 5 upgraded Ankh just hurts Sylvanas' teamfight so much, though. Most of the time, if the Sylvanas has blinked in and got a 3-man, 4-man Wrath of Terror, the teamfight is pretty much already over. If they got a 1-man Wrath of Terror or just completely whiffed it and gets like beads, then the teamfight's over because the Sylvanas is already dead. I think that the Cursed Ankh does affect him, it's just not as effective as people would say it would be. Alright, we're moving on to Terra now. I see zero reason to pick Terra. I really see zero reason to pick Terra. You have her ultimate, sure, whoop-de-fucking-do. She's a B. There's only one person I would see playing Terra and I'll go, okay, sure, that's a good pick. And that's Jeff Hindler. Everybody else picking Terra, I'm going, why the fuck if they pick Terra? You just have other options to pick over Terra. Lasbro is now hosting me with 116 viewers. Thank you so much for host, Lasbro. Hope you had a good stream. Now we're moving on to Thanatos. Terra's clear 40% slow in a row. She doesn't have clear at level 1 or 2. Unless you get a dash at level 1, at which point you're probably dead for using your dash at level 1. So, we've got to Thanatos. In terms of competitive setting, his execute is a lot more reliable than the Ao Kuang, so you can do it from a bit of a safer position. I think he's a balanced character right now. PBM pick Terra. Yeah, I can sort of see PBM doing well with Terra, but I just think Jeff Hindler's got a better Terra. Morrigan. From a competitive standpoint, I think Morrigan is A+. And again, broken record thing with the changes to Warlock Staff, with the changes to Book of the Dead, blah 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 blah. It's a lot more difficult for her to assassinate the mage, which is what she used to do. She used to just kill the enemy mage and then run around the team fight as a 5 versus 4. She has to do it to the Hunter now, and the Hunter has the ability to turn around and kill her because, well, she just popped out of her invis. And the Hunter has sustain because they're either buying Assy or buying Devour's Gauntlets. Or we might transition to a meta where they buy neither, at which point Morrigan does move up in viability. Thor. What to do with Thor? I just think that every assassin up here, from Camazotz all the way down to Hombats and Susano, are just better than Thor in the jungle right now. They've got better clear, they have better presence from the jungle. They have the ability to really define their build by going into full damage, whilst with Thor you have to build some defensive utility because you're so close to them whilst using your abilities. He has good CC, but if you want good CC in a team fight, you would probably pick Darji or Hombats. Maybe not Darji. You'd probably pick Susano or Hombats if you want a good CC in a team fight from the jungle. Thor in A. What do you think about removing the slow to the 3 on Terra and remove God damage and give back the... I think that would be a good thing. That's a lot of death picks. That's a lot of death picks, I like it. Toth! absolutely insane god right now. I think, along with Janus, he is one of the top mages in the game. I think if you either have Janus or Toth on your team in the mid lane, you are doing extremely well. You'll notice, though, that these two gods don't really have the best lane presence in the early game, but they're still at the highest level, considering they have the ability to survive fights from a distance, they have the ability to impact fights from a distance, they have the ability to just kill fights from a distance. Mage's Blessing on Toth is an absolute nightmare to deal with. It really is. In the mid game, you cannot deal with a Toth if he has Mage's Blessing stacked. Tyr. You pick Tyr over Sun Wukong. Would you? Probably. Not every time, though. I think Tyr is an A tier character. Good sustain, good lane presence. If teamfight presence, you really have to come into the fights late, at which point the fights could already be over. Ulla. Transcendence is a viable build path on the Hunters, as is Mage's Blessing, and Ulla utilizes both of them extremely well. 2 abilities at level 1, 4 abilities at level 2. You have 4 abilities, whilst the other Hunter has 2. And you stay that way until level 5, which point the enemy ADC then has 4 abilities, unless there's something like an Apollo, which point they only have 2. So the ultimate really doesn't count. From a competitive standpoint, Ulla does work, but not as much work as I feel like a Jing Wei would do, or as a Hachiman would do. I think Ulla is a S- character right now. Wait, how is Vote partnered and not Deathwalker? He just, no, Death doesn't have the verified badge on him. He chooses not to show it. For mana, I just don't think you pick for mana. Like, you pick him over a Shark, definitely, but you just wouldn't pick for mana, ever. Again, suffers from the same problem that Anubis and Ao Kuang do, just anti-heal really screws them over in their big teamfight presence. Vulcan, unconfirmable damage on the ultimate, bit better with the tighter corridors in the jungle. Good lane presence thanks to his backfire and his turret. Would I pick him over a Ra and Kukulkan? Yes. Would I pick him over a Morrigan? No. I think Vulcan is an A+ character. Yes, I'll pick Vermana over a Shark most of the time. I really would just pick Vermana over Shark. I just think Vermana has more to offer than a Shark does. Xbalanque. You could go Mage's Blessing Xbalanque and level your dash, which is, your poison darts even, is what I've seen some people do, which is poke out the enemy ADC. Or you can go Hunter's Blessing and level up your 1 just for insane wave clear. The fact that Transcendence is now a thing on ADCs, as we said with Ulla, benefits Xbalanque because he no longer runs out of mana whilst using his 1. You can have it on permanently. I think Xbalanque you would pick over... I think you pick Xbalanque over Artemis and Chiron and Cupid, but you wouldn't really just pick him anywhere else. I think Xbalanque A-, considering his teamfight presence is just godlike with that ultimate. Probably the best teamfight ultimate in the game. Xing Chen. Flexibility from support to solo lane. Decent presence in the solo lane, decent presence in support. Really there to counter those compositions which draft double ADC, double basic attack base character, maybe with triple basic attack base characters thanks to his Furious Roar, reducing that damage by 50%. I think Xing Chen is in a good spot right now. I think he's an A+ character. We have 3 characters left, and then we can discuss more characters at a bit more length, maybe even move some around. So, we have Ymir. Ymir, as a jungler, can do quite well. He's one of the few non-assassin junglers that I would even consider picking. Can do a bit well in the solo lane, but I just feel he's overshadowed because he has to stand still for his clear. With Hunter's Blessing, he does provide a lot of presence, a lot of damage, but that's more of a gimmicky strat that can be easily countered by an early rotation and an early kill to the immobile Guardian. Support role is where he shines these days. Tighter corridors mean his wall is just more impactful in the jungle, blocking off a lot more entryways. I think that his damage mitigation, well, not damage, but damage reduction on his passive can really impact teamfights more than you would expect. And he is this very strong counter to immobile gods like Hell, like Guan Yu, like Khepri. Really limits their impact in going through the teamfight as they want to. I think with his flexibility, and I think with his presence in teamfights, especially around the jungle, I think Ymir is a balanced character right now. There are reasons to pick him. There are reasons to not pick him. There are counters to him. There are good matchups that he has. It's everything you want in terms of a balanced character. Well, we have 2 more characters, Zeus and Zhonghui. Zeus, I would pick Zeus at the same point I would pick a Ra or a Kukulkan. He has good AoE damage, doesn't have CC immunity like a Ra does, has good zone potential like a Kukulkan, has a bit less safety than a Kukulkan, but has more kill potential than a Kukulkan, easier to confirm damage because of his detonate. I think Zeus is a balanced character right now. Finally, I'd say the bell curve is somewhat decent, just a lot more up here than you would expect. We're probably going to move some characters down from here after we do a bit more of a discussion. Zhonghui. When Season 5 was announced, one of the big things was that mages were going to get protection scaling. This was the thing that was exclusive to Zhonghui at one point, then they gave it to Freya to help her out, considering she had to get into melee range a couple times when her abilities were down. So Zhonghui lost a bit of identity there. The buff to Warlock Staff really does help the Zhonghui though, considering a lot of people consider it core on this build, which it kind of is now. Before it really wasn't, now you pretty much have to build it on the Zhonghui, otherwise you're just not going to survive fights. You almost have to build in Bruisery still though. You have to build in with some defensive items, you have to build in with some area, or some degree of resilience. And with Road Hootie being nerfed, you lose that ability, you lose the ability to do so safely whilst also keeping up your DPS. I think Zhonghui's in a awkward spot right now. I don't see much reason to pick him. I would still pick him over a Hades though. He's an A- character. Okay. So, now that we've gone through all of the characters, all of the gods in the game, we'll go over the tier list again. We're going to see if any gods in the game should be moved down, should be moved up. We'll look for chat for anybody to see if they think a certain character should be moved down or up and why. Upwash really needs to be moved up. Explain why. Explain why you would pick an Upwash over any character. Link tier list, please. I will link it once it's published and done afterwards. Once we move characters up or down, I will publish the tier list. Because Arposh is an Arachne? Well, Arachne's not in C, so check and mate to you. That's Arachne lower than Arposh because there's zero reason to pick Arachne. If you build a team comp around an Arposh, you can pick it, and that's why. Arachne really that bad? There is zero reason to pick Arachne. She has the worst jungle clear in the game. She has one of the worst teamfight presence into the game. She is a 1v1 character at heart when there's no minions whatsoever. And even then, she still loses to some characters. If Arposh's ult had anti-heals or some nonsense, would he be better? I think if they put the slow back onto it, it'd be a lot better. I'd vote for Hel to be an A. Despite anti-heal being a thing, her free beats is really good against a lot of higher level characters. As I said before, I think if Hel's heal on her allies was more per tick but less ticks, she would be A. But it's just so easy to go into a team that's just been healed by Hel, activate Curse Dunk, and have 4 out of 5 of them take extra damage. I see a lot of people saying Hombat should be moved up, and during the tier list, I think that A+ was a fair reflection, but after seeing other gods being moved into different places, I think Hombat does deserve to be moved up. So, can you fucking... Boom. Hombat's an S. Minus. Nem should be moved down to A tier. I think Nem stays an S. I really think Nem stays an S. I just think there's reasons to pick other characters over a Wheelix. If you want that early game burst, you go for like a Thanatos or a Thor, or even a Bastet. They're a bit safer than the Wheelix, especially going into that mid and late game. Shouldn't super carriers like Merc and Alquang be placed higher? They just still have the ability to be pushed out of the early game entirely and pushed out of the game completely in the early game. I think Onher definitely needs to be moved down at this point. I didn't expect to put as many ADCs as I do up in this realm before, but I think having a look at the ADCs that are around, like the Hachiman, the Jingwei, I think Honor needs to be moved down. Like the most infuriating thing ever. Can't put them in order. That's annoying. Or just leave it as that then. They should be moved up. Alright, if we're going to move Hui up, then I think we have to move an ADC down. I think if we're moving Hui up, then Kurnono should be moved down a bit. I think that would be the accurate reflection. AMC and Ulla hit hard by supports being in lane because it impacts their bully potentials. It hurts him in the very early game, but it also gives AMC a bit more survivability than he would do. Yusa is worse than Hui, in my opinion. Why is Nasha S+? Nasha's S+ because he's just the second best jungler in the game. Maybe even third best just behind Evo. I think that Nasha's absolutely insane right now, and with the buff to Deathbringer in terms of contextual crits. We're talking about Daji's not Daji's, talking about Naja's contextual crits on the ultimate. Deathbringer is a buff considering the bonus damage to crits was increased. Once more, Ring Toss gives good mobility around the jungle, good clear, and you can just build as damaging as you want as a Naja, instantly kill somebody, and boom, the teamfight's won. I was all of that low. In terms of competitive, he just isn't as strong as other people would make him out to be. Dana just needs a few kills early. Yes, but we're talking about a standard competitive game. Then AMC Medusa. I can't justify putting Ram down an A+. I think Ram is an S- character. I think he is one of the stronger characters throughout Smite's history. I think changing metas for him in terms of attack speed meta versus crit meta doesn't affect him whatsoever. I think the only way Ram moves down is if they actually nerf him. I think the way the tier list is right now, I think we have a nice curve. I think it's a bit heavier, weighted to slightly stronger characters than it is to slightly weaker characters. Sylvanas is not as good as Athena, and Geb is better than him. I think on a few support players you are correct. I think on other support players it's wrong. We're talking about the general support player populace here. Daji better than Naja? No. Naja's got better early game presence and has about the same mid game and late game presence as Adachi. Also, Sylvanas has his laning phase. I don't think that. I think he has a good team fight comparable to the Gebs. I think Geb has better potential to peel in the team fight. I think Sylvanas has a better potential to engage and aggress during the team fight. That's just my opinion anyway. I'm going to stop you there, real Glenn Quagmire, because you're saying, oh, Naja is not S+, but you're not giving me a reason why. Give me a reason why. If it's a valid reason and chat agrees with you, I will move Naja down. Again, this is a high-level competitive. High-level competitive. If a Daji or a Thanatos is carrying a game at a high-level competitive, then a Naja can as well. So Ket for the most part. Okay, so put in chat, vote yay if you think Geb should be moved up and Sylvanas moved down, or vote nay if you don't think. How do you justify Camelsorts over Hombats? I think Camelsorts has much better clear than the Hombats. And Camelsorts can flex pick into the solo lane. Alright, so we have a lot more... We have a lot more yays in terms of Geb and Sylvanas switching places. Well, Geb and Sylvanas switch places. As reluctant as I am, I think in terms of a majority vote, in terms of a general consensus, that is the thing. Right. Naja gets farmed from behind, so does every other jungler. You can't say, oh, you can't just say, oh, this god gets farmed from behind, because every character does. Oh, if Kepler gets put behind, he's farmed. He's terrible. Oh, if Audrey gets put behind, she's farmed. She's terrible. It's not an argument. So I think we're going to leave the tier list there. I think after 2 hours, we've had a good discussion about some of the characters. We've seen a couple have moved up, couple have moved down. Can we have just do a general look at S plus through A plus quickly? Still seems oversaturated, but can't pick out why specific. Because like Kirko plus, can we move to A though? A serious question. Amaterasu being below Erlang or Cyrus Bologna, may please ask for the reasoning for this. I just think that Amaterasu still can't play aggressive in the lane, whilst Bologna, Erlang, Shen, and Osiris can. I think at this point in time, it's fine for S minus and A plus to be like, we haven't had a competitive game in Season 5 yet, and I think the fact that S minus and A plus is a bit oversaturated is a fine thing. Because we're still discussing, we're still testing, still discussing where characters really should be lying, and at this point, with not enough data, this is where some characters have just fallen. Considering relative strength, considering some hypothetical situations, and considering how the meta has been affected. Once we see in 5.4, 5.5 tier lists, a few of these characters will have moved down, as we will not have seen them in competitive play, or we will have seen them they perform badly. Maybe we've seen characters like Kronos perform extremely well and move up. And that's the thing, once competitive game data comes available, the tier list will change, the tier list become a lot more balanced around the A, rather than the A+. Oh. Then that's it for the tier list. Thank you, guys. I'm going to publish it in a second. I think I might have to hide just so people don't see the code that comes up to edit it.